welcome to the Logistics Point interviews. Today I'm joined by Jack Thomas from PrintCity, and we're going to talk about reverse mentoring. Jack, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Nick.
I just mentioned reverse mentoring. Can you just give us a sort of a summary of what is it and how does it benefit companies?
It's a way of getting younger members of staff in companies to mentor senior members of staff. So unlike a traditional system where the senior member of staff is the mentor, the senior staff member in this case is actually the trainee, and the younger member is the mentor. That does work both ways. That isn't just critically has to be that way, but that's basically the gist of it. In terms of the key benefits to reverse mentoring, I think it's utilizing the skill sets of younger practitioners in a way that their experienced colleagues take longer to learn. It allows for a much greater level of change in a much shorter frame of time. And it means a business can remain much more agile, on trend, and much more closer to sort of the cutting edge in whatever field they're in, because they can access these skill sets more easy. Another benefit, I'd say definitely, is it fosters a very open-minded approach to working. And I don't mean that in an imprecise way or a way that lacks direction, but in a way that's welcoming to new ideas. It creates a culture in which newer, less experienced individuals feel as though they have a voice and a platform for their ideas to be heard.
And how is it to actually communicate this with both parties, the trainee and the mentor, and to make them feel welcomed and that it's actually good for both of them?
I think that can be a bit of a problem, and I feel like that's a sort of a thing for like more sort of soft skills. It's very much a people's problem. It's very much a people's relations problem, and it can be a much more difficult one and a much less actionable one to actually solve in terms of getting people to understand what they need to do. There is, of course, like training that you can do, but I think the training for this kind of stuff is still being sort of ironed out, as it were, in terms of what can actually be done. With regards to sort of actionable approaches and training for senior and younger staff members, it may be a case of introducing specific roles for that task within companies, or even external training services who come in, review, and they can find those links between people and find those pairings. It's much easier to see a wider situation from an external point of view. Another way that they could implement that in terms of reverse mentoring would be to make the senior staff more sort of make them more aware of their young colleagues. A lot of the time, senior staff members it's not their fault, but because they're dealing with so many things, or they have different levels of concern for certain things than the younger staff members, that they're unaware of what their younger staff members can do and what they're capable of.
Supply chains are turning green, but where will the energy come from? Join us on the 10th of May to talk about power and energy in logistics, visibility and sustainability, and the role of people. Discover why sustainability is more than just a word, and what logistic and supply chain organizations are doing to fulfill net zero pledges, customers' demands, and shortages of key materials. The event is free and you can register now. Delivering Green, Creating Sustainable Supply Chains on the 10th of May by the Logistics Point. Register now. Is there a particular area where reverse mentoring is extremely beneficial for a company?
Identifying hybrid practices is quite a big one. It sounds a bit vague, but in terms of allowing people to see where they could improve from very left field kind of areas. So, for example, myself, I started off as a textiles practitioner. And you wouldn't, at first, a lot of people wouldn't sort of blend that with engineering in any way whatsoever. But I'm a textiles practitioner who's now working with machines like Markforged, which are high performance, quality 3D printers, and I'm applying textiles practices to those kinds of machines. Okay. I think in terms of identifying those highly hybridized practices and making them very actionable in terms of what they can actually do, because there is a way to blend these things together, and reverse mentoring is a very good catalyst for that kind of thing. With regards to sort of managee relations, as it were, as well, it can work very well in that situation. Understanding what a trainer is up to, understanding what a mentor is up to, understanding their different sort of complications and their difficulties in a day-to-day working style can make people much more sympathetic to the other one in terms of what they actually have to do. And that level of sort of understanding of the stresses and pressures can really give you a much greater appreciation for what that person's doing, whether that's the trainee understanding what the mentor's pressures are, or the other way around.
Where does the initiative have to come from? Is it from the top management, or is it bottom up?
A bit of both, really. I think the actionable things come from the top, as it were. They sort of bleed down, but the impetus can very much come from the bottom. Just because there might be communication issues in a company, which it's not a bad thing to admit that. That doesn't mean that the younger or the lower down members of staff don't have a voice. They very much do, and they can very much use it, and it will be heard. And the right members of staff, senior staff, can hear that, will hear it, and they are the people who have that drive and that ability to actually cause actual change in terms of this mentoring. Again, it might be a case for someone external coming in, a service that comes in and says reverse mentoring would suit you, pitch reverse mentoring to the company, and hopefully those ideas do take, even if it does take a short while, and then a review to sort of prove to them and give them actual sort of data to show them, oh look, we are actually improving your company with this reverse mentoring scheme. Would you like to continue, and would you like to implement this further?
Jack, thank you very much for your time, and for everyone watching, you can learn more in the description down below. Thank you very much.